All right, here we are going to talk about how to simplify or divide monomials in this case. So when you have a term on the top and a term on the bottom, you know that you need to treat them a little differently. So you have your numeric component here, your numerical coefficient. You have your x here, and then you have your y and your y. All right, so first we're going to look at the number. So here we have, the way you can think of this, I'm not going to break it down like this every time, but just to show you, this is the same thing as saying 64 over negative 14 times x over x to the 10th, x to the 10th over x to the 12th times y over y to the 4th. So if you're having a hard time when they're all put together, you can kind of split it up like this. The only reason you could do that is because these are all being multiplied and these are all being multiplied. All right, so let's look at the numeric component first. So here we have 64 over 14. How do we simplify that? Well, you can do one of two things. You can pull a number out of the numerator and denominator until you get down to where you can't divide anymore. That's probably the easiest way. Looking at this, I don't know what they're both divisible by as far as big numbers, but I do know they're both divisible by 2 because they're both even numbers. So let's go ahead and divide the top and the bottom by 2 just to see what we get. We're going to get 32 over negative 7. I don't think there's any other common factor. So that's as simplified as this numeric component can get. Now let's look at our x component. So here we have x to the 10th over x to the 12th, right? So when we're dividing variables with exponents, you subtract the bottom from the top. So this is the same thing as saying x to the 10 minus 12, which equals x to the negative 2. All right, and in this case, since we have a negative exponent, that's a negative, that's going to go on the bottom. So that's the same thing as saying x over 2. So that's this, x to the negative 2 is equal to 1 over x squared. Okay? Then we have, so I'm going to clean all this up. Now we have our y component. So again, we're going to do the same thing. We have y. Remember, y is the same thing as y to the first, right? So we have y divided by y to the 4th, which is the same as y to the 1 minus 4, which equals y to the negative 3. So that's the same thing as saying times 1 over y cubed. Now, well, I guess I didn't have to erase it. That's okay. We'll just erase all that. Over y to the 4th. Now, just to show you guys, when you look at this problem from the very beginning, I don't know if I can erase this, probably not very well. Well, let's just rewrite it. Probably look a little better. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it. We had 64 x to the 10th, y over negative 14, x to the 12th, y to the 4th. I look here and I see, oh wow, my x variables on the bottom has a bigger denominator or a bigger exponent than the one on the top, and my y exponent on the bottom also has it. I know then in my mind, I won't have any variables left in the top because these are both bigger than these. Okay, and if the numerator is bigger, the exponent's bigger in the numerator than is the denominator, then your answer is going to be in the numerator, that variable. So if we were to put this back together, we have 32 times 1 times 1 all over negative 7 x squared y cubed, which is the same thing as just 32 over negative 7x squared y cubed. Okay, now that's expanding it all and doing it, looking at just the number, the x, and then the y. Now, if we were just to look at it with just the, just looking at it really quickly, let me show you what that would look like. We had, again, 64x to the 10th times y over negative 14 x to the 12th. So anyone who feels pretty comfortable, and everybody should get to this point. I look at this and I say, okay, 64 over 14. Again, we already know that that's only divisible by 2. So we know we have 32 and negative 7. Here I go, okay, x 10 minus 12 is negative 2, so I have x squared down here. 1 y to the first minus y to the fourth is y to the negative third, so I know I have y to the third over down here. So that way, you can get to that point where all you're doing it is in your head step by step. All right, if anybody has any questions about how to divide monomials or simplify, let me know and I'll help you out. All right, have a good one.